You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Drive-Thru, the series where I talk about my many exploits within the workplace. Today's episode, I'll be talking about a job I had for all of a week. Yeah, it was something else, I'll tell you that. So, for context, at the time I was working in a call center and wanted to get the hell out of there because I was getting really sick of the call center because they were cracking down on a bunch of stuff that was really petty and didn't matter. They were introducing a bunch of new policies, and they were removing departments, which made it much more difficult to deal with customers because our department was not trained for a lot of things, but that's another story for another day. So, because of all that, I was trying to get out of the call center, but I was doing it a very smart way, I think. I was sort of testing the water with a few new jobs to see what would stick, and eventually that did end up getting me into the job I'm in today. However, at the time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and was trying almost anything to get out of there. I didn't really try a whole lot of jobs, but the first one I tried was a door-to-door surveyor, quote-unquote. Now, what that job entailed was I was basically going and knocking on people's doors and asking them if they were interested in solar panels. I was doing this for a solar company. I won't mention which one because I technically signed a non-disclosure agreement on it, so I can't. But the way this particular company was run was really bad. For instance, we were brought in and we were trained by this guy. We'll call him Bill. So this Bill guy acts really nice and acts like he's your best bud. He tells you, oh, you're going to be making $14 an hour, no matter what. $14 an hour guaranteed. They tell you that right up at the start. Then they tell you, by the way, you're going to be able to make all these incentives if you get past your goals and you basically go above and beyond. You're going to be making a lot more money than that. At the time of this, a friend of mine was also going for the job, and in fact, he's the one who referred me to them, and we were both training together. Now, this solar company was a little bit shady, to say the least. So first off, there's this Bill guy, right? And you go into his office, and you see that there's all these, psychology books on how to basically manipulate people. And right off the bat, I felt, he was kind of trying to do that on us, and he definitely was. But the next red flag I got was the training was not paid for. We trained for 2 days, and those days were unpaid. Now, granted, that's only 2 days, but still, it's bullshit it was unpaid. And of course, during the training, they tell us, hey, we're going to have these quotas that you have to meet. Basically, you have to set a total of 12 appointments, and 4 of those 12 have to actually buy the panels. So the way it worked is we'd have to set up appointments for a salesman to go out and try and sell them the panels. We had to create 12 appointments, and 4 of them had to go through to meet the quotas. Now, this is per week. However, he said since we were new to the job, don't worry too much about the quotas, it's not a big deal, you'll still get your hourly pay, no big deal, no harm, no foul. I'm like, alright, maybe it'll get easier as time goes on. So, after a few days of actually going out in the field, knocking on the doors, I set, I think, maybe 1 or 2 appointments the first couple of days, and that was all I set at all in the entire week I worked there. But the thing is they don't keep record of the appointments correctly, so they don't actually log that you actually got credit for the appointment, so you won't technically meet the quota even if you do. I know this because my friend tested it using a controlled situation where he set it to go to his friend's house for an appointment, and they did not log that the appointment happened even though we know it did. So that's another bit of bullshit there. They don't give you proper credit when you're supposed to get it. Now, obviously the friend didn't end up buying the solar panels, but you still should get credit for the appointment, just not for the sale. And after a couple of days in, they brought in the owner of the company, and he started giving us this big speech about how we had to knock on doors in a specific way. Basically, you do 3 knocks, ring the doorbell, 3 knocks, which I thought was complete and total bullshit, because that just sounds annoying and persistent to me if someone does that to me. Not to mention, he tried to tell me that we were not soliciting because we weren't salesmen, but that's bullshit because he clearly didn't know that solicit does not mean sale. If you're unfamiliar with what soliciting is, it's literally just going out and asking someone for something, which is exactly what we were doing. We were asking them if they were interested in the panels. We were soliciting an appointment out of them. Sure, we weren't selling the panels directly, but we were selling them on an idea. And technically, legally, we were still solicitors. So when we went to doors with no solicitors, I just logged them as no solicitors and didn't even bother knocking. Well, the owner of the company was not happy about this and wanted us to actually knock on those doors and try them, and I'm like, no, fuck that. In fact, after that meeting, I quit working that job altogether. Granted, I finished out that week so I could get a full week's pay, but after that, I was done. The next really shady thing hit me when I actually got the paycheck. It was much, much smaller than I was expecting. Because I logged all my hours, and I should have gotten quite a bit more than I did. I don't remember the exact number, but basically what it came down to is I was getting drastically less than I thought, over $100 less. Well, later on, after I had left that company, my friend started noticing that he was not getting that much money, and he confronted them about it, and they said, well, you're not actually getting the 14 because you're not making the quotas. So what actually ended up happening is they were only paying him 10 per hour, and they were only paying me 10 per hour as well, which was a lie because they claimed we'd get the 14 no matter what. Now, they later went on to say, well, it was in the contract you signed, which I read through it and I did not see anything about that, so unless it was in really fine print that I couldn't even see using a magnifying glass, they're full of shit and they're lying. On top of that, they intentionally didn't train us on stuff that we could answer questions. Like, when people would ask us questions about shit, we were just encouraged to have the salesman come out and explain it to them. Because that way the salesman can try to make the sale while they're answering their questions. They would intentionally not give us the answers, because that way they would be more enticed to have a salesman come out and answer their questions. They also didn't call them salesmen, they called them consultants, which was incredibly misleading as well. And again, I can't exactly mention which one their company name was, but I will say that their company name was incredibly similar to a much more well-known company name, so I feel like they were trying to backpack off the success of the other one. Because if I look up the company name for the one that I worked for, I usually just find the other company. The one that I worked for is like the 4th or 5th option down. And after a while, my friend was like, well, if I'm only making 10 per hour without the quotas, I'm just not going to do the actual work. So what he did is ended up just logging his hours in the thing and setting up markings as if he'd been going to houses and just turning off the location on his phone so they can't track that he wasn't actually going. So, he's like, hey, if they're going to fuck me over, I'm going to fuck them over. And you know what? I don't blame him. Rather than that, I quit and just went and got another job. And as I said, in the meantime, I still had the call center job because I didn't fully quit my job until I actually had one that was a sure thing that I was going to stay with. Other than the company itself, people were assholes. Granted, I admit being a door-to-door, like knocking on doors, bothering people is really annoying, and I get that. But I remember this one lady sent her fucking dog out at us. Like, it's just this little harmless fucking dog, but it's like, come on, bitch, why would you do that? That is just awful to do to a person. And then there was this one old man who, we went to his house, and apparently he already had solar panels, and he wouldn't shut the fuck up about how solar panels are a scam. And he was telling us, oh, you need to get out of that business because it's a scam. I'm like, okay, well, I'll see you later. And, like, basically his bitch wife just kept talking to us. And at that point, I just decided to fuck right back with them because they kept frustrating me. Now, granted, I'll admit, like I said, going door to door to someone isn't a pleasant thing to do, and I would never do it again. Because I find it incredibly annoying, and I personally don't like it. But I'm always respectful when people come to my door. I just tell them, hey, I'm not interested. Please put me on your no-call list if you have one. But this old man kept ripping into us and acting like we were the worst people that existed, so I got fed up with it. And I'm like, well, the panels you purchased, did you get them through our company? And he's like, what the fuck does that matter? It's all the same thing. Get the fuck off my property. And then his bitch wife just kept shouting at us and saying things and acting like she wanted to keep talking to us. I'm like, well, which is it? Do you want to keep talking to us or do you want us to leave? At which point, I just walked away and let the bitch keep talking. Like I said, it was a bitch thing. It's a dick thing to go knocking on people's door. I think it's an asshole thing to do. But there's no reason to attack me and my friend for something we had nothing to do with, and to continue berating us until the point where I get fed up with it. Granted, like I said, me being a snarky little asshole and coming back at him with that comment, I expected him to get mad. And had I just started out with that, when him saying he already had them and didn't like them, I would have expected to get fucking socked in the face and totally deserved it. But the only reason I was being so snarky and fucking malicious with him is because of the way he was being with me at the beginning. But yeah, that's a lesson I can give to everyone. Do not do a door-to-door job. I never wanted to in the first place, but my friend's like, hey, let's try it out at the very least. I'm like, you know what, I'll try it, because I wanted to get out of the call center. But like I said, I only lasted at that job a week, and I got paid for it. Not very much, but hey, I got paid for it, and it was a learning experience. Anyway, this has been Fugitive Red Eye, and you have a great rest of the day.
Subscribe, the Fugitive Red Eye.